Realtors, are you making 100, 200 grand a year, but you're working your tail off, man, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and you don't know how to break out of that income bracket? Well, listen, man, it's your lucky day, because today I've got the solution. All right, baby, you guys bring me monster problems, I'm bringing you monster solutions. You've already looked at the title of the video, so I know you know the solution is an assistant, baby. You got to get some help, man. So it's easy to say, I know you've all heard it, but it's scary to take that big step, right? So I'm going to tell you right now, if you've looked at my old videos and you've seen the tracker video, I can get you on board with getting an assistant today. If you have not done that, it's going to be a good 3 to 6 months of you going back and doing the tracking necessary to feel comfortable with and make a logical decision moving forward on getting that assistant, right? So either way, regardless of the situation you're in, we're going to put you in a better situation today, right? So let's do that math backwards to find out, Joe, how do I get an assistant? And how do I know I can afford one, right? So you're in a situation where you're making a lot of money, but you want to make more. But how do you do that? Because you're working 70, 80, 90 hours a week. You don't have more time, man. You got a family. You've got whatever else it is going on in your life. You can't put any more time into this. It's simple, man. You go back and you look at your tracker and you see open houses make you $100 an hour. Right? You've done the math. You know, for every open house you do, it takes this amount of time, right? And when you add all that time up, you look at the closings that you had over a 6 to 12 month period, you divide it out, and you know I make $100 an hour per open house. When I go after expireds, I make 150. When I go after FSBOs, I make 180. You know all those numbers for every single thing you're doing, which makes it so easy to crunch your numbers and determine what you can afford when it comes to an assistant, right? So you're gonna use that tracker to work backwards to see what the value of an assistant is. So let's say your assistant works, I don't know, 40 hours, right? That's a good number, that's pretty normal. That assistant is gonna cost you what? 10, 15, 20 bucks an hour. And you might say 10, maybe I can do 15, 20 is way too much, Joe, I can't do 20. Well, let's see what you can do, right? Let's say you've got a task, it's open houses, right? That's what I gave you. And you look and you say, hey, I can make $100 an hour on average out of doing open houses because I've looked, I've seen it, I've tracked it, and over time, that's what I make. Okay, cool. He's taking on 40 hours of your week, doing all the menial tasks that have to get done, but don't bring in cash. All right. So you're not asking your assistant to go out and do opens, to do FSBOs, to do expireds. They're not a salesman. They're doing all of the smaller trivial tasks that have to get done, but they don't bring in any money, man. So they're able to do those, which allows you to get out and do more of that big money prospecting. All right. So if you're able to add 40 hours to your schedule, right? You worked, let's say 70 hours, but now they're doing 40 hours of your stuff. You got that 40 freed back up, man. Now, I always tell you to push for 50 to 70% of that time as prospecting. So you're going to take, let's say at a minimum, right? Because I want you to feel comfortable with this decision. It is a conservative decision to get an assistant. If you take 50% of that 40 hours, that's 20 hours, and the other 20 is you doing more admin to keep up with all the business that you're getting from that extra 20 hours of prospecting. So now you're doing an extra 20 hours, and let's say open houses makes you $100 an hour, and that's what you decide you're gonna do. And it's not gonna be, right? It's gonna be a mix of a couple other things. So you're gonna look, maybe it's 5 hours of opens, it's 7 hours of expireds, and it's 8 hours of for sale by owners. So you gotta crunch the math and figure out what 8 hours of this, 7 hours of this, and 5 hours of this gets you. But let's say on average it's $100 an hour. You know that the 20 hours you're putting into prospecting times $100 is $2,000. You're making $2,000 a week more, baby. $2,000 a week. And that's if you're making $100 an hour, man. You're going to be crushing that. So back to the numbers. $2,000 a week. You're paying that person $10 an hour at 40 hours. That's $400. Maybe you're paying them 20. That's $800. Even at $20 an hour, you're making the $2,000 minus the $800 you're paying them. You're making $1,200 a week, man. $1,200. That's $60,000 a year more. And I'm just running just estimates. And these are low estimates. Look at your numbers, and I'm telling you, they're going to be better than the ones I'm using right now. 60 grand is easy. And it's not that you're making an extra 60 grand. You're making more than that. You're making an extra 60 grand above what you're paying your assistant, man. And holy smokes, is your life going to be more organized, more streamlined, and it's just going to be easy, man. He or she is going to help you crush it, and it's going to be awesome. All right. So you need to take that number, whatever it is. All right. If you're paying them 20 bucks an hour, you take the money times the time. That equals the amount you're going to pay them, and you got to get it in that budget. If you don't have a budget, go back and look at my budget video. You got to get a budget for that business so that everything, right? You budget your time, you budget your money. Everything here should be organized and pre-done. There's no guessing. It's executing every day, right? So you got that number in that budget, right? So that takes care of the budget. Now we're going to look at the last aspect of this, which is assigning that assistant a role, okay? So how do you assign that role? Before you even look at the assistant, you take time, put it in your schedule, and you build yourself a training manual, okay? It explains every single thing that person's gonna do. It details exactly what the standard is, tells them how much time it is, tells them how to do it, right? And you make that thing. I always like to think of McDonald's, man. They might not have the best burgers, but they got the best systems on the planet. And you can take any 16-year-old kid, put them in the slot, and as long as you give them the training manual, they can make burgers. They can run the cash register. They can run the window. They can do it all because that manual is so good, man. That's how you want your manual to be. So I'm going to recommend two things. Go back and look at, I think it's my episode 2 on training manuals. Or if you want even more in depth, man, the E-Myth Revisited. Awesome book. It's by Michael Gerber. It'll give you a ton of great tips on how to think about making that training manual yourself. All right, there it is, guys. I'm telling you, get yourself an assistant. If you want to argue with me, right, send me an email, send me a text, call me up. I'd love to go back and forth with you on those numbers and talk to you about why you absolutely have to get an assistant, man. It's going to help you break through that $100,000 to $200,000 barrier. Stay fired up.